In the first session of this lecture, we shared our different experiences, even as we looked at student recruitment, placement, and mentorship. So I just want to go over and just summarize what we've really discussed, what has been our experiences. One, nursing students' academic failure has been a growing phenomenon internationally. Not only because of its economic impact, because you can imagine you train a graduate student for the first year and then they drop. That is an economic loss. But because it also affects negatively the availability of future nurses in different healthcare systems, not only in developing world, but also in developed countries. If that is an issue, then it needs to be interrogated and mitigated. But even before we go to the details of what causes that, let me ask us to share our experience. I will ask Onyango to tell us when they started in their class, how many did they start, how many graduated, what happened along the way. Onyango.
For us, KMTC capitation for students per intake is 50. So we started out as 50. One student had to be pushed back because of her age, because at the time of registration, she had not yet turned 7. She was 16 years, so she was told to go back an year. Then another was dropped. After we went for our first rotation in the clinical areas, we lost one student. She dropped out. She said nursing is not for her. By the time we were graduating, we were less than 40.
So what happened to the 10 in between, from 50 to less than 40?
The first two dropped. The first one was dropped because of her age. The second one dropped out. The others, as we proceeded, they went back either to the years behind us. They had to now go back a class because of results issues, or because of personal, especially financial issues with regards to studying. So most of them dropped out of nursing, and we have 2 who opted for other courses.
Okay.
Among the 10, yes.
Thank you for sharing. So you can imagine, and I want to believe those are some of the sentiments which have been shared across all our training years. But apart from the student dropout due to poor performance, we also have negative societal perceptions about nursing profession. More often than not, it has been seen as a female-dominated field. Other times, people have felt like nursing is subordination to doctors. There are situations where it has been felt like nursing only admits low academic standards. Of course, that has changed. And you can imagine in Kenya, the requirements for you to join a diploma course are very high. But we have somebody who's decided to put in a loophole a bit in starting a certificate nurse. But generally in Kenya, we do agree getting admitted as a nurse in a nursing school requires high academic performance. At times, there are limited career opportunities. So because people don't have other opportunities to go to which are offering jobs, they decide to learn in nursing. People have also thought that nurses are poorly paid and they work under poor working conditions. These perceptions affect levels of recruitment into nursing. And then you can imagine after you have overtaken all those perceptions, you've joined the school, then we have attrition from both the nursing students and nursing courses. And then we have a number of nurses who are moving away from bedside care and taking other roles which are not necessarily related to nursing at all. There's also the change in trades which has been current, because nursing, especially in developing countries, has been viewed as a ticket to a better life abroad. And then there is also the issue of specialization, that now nurses can specialize into nurse practitioner and specialize in their own areas and practice independently. Of course, there are people who are good performers who are often risk takers. And more often than not, even the entrance exams for nurses who want to go and practice out of the country are not easy. And so for you to pass that exam, you have to be sharp and you have to read widely. So does that also contribute to labor migration? Are we having brain drain even as we change these trends of nursing, both recruitment and employment? Something we need to think critically about. Now, when we discussed our experiences in the earlier session, many of us, or a number of us, said they joined nursing because their parents recommended the same. And the fact that parents can recommend you join a program means maybe, not even maybe, probably, or actually, with time, the perception of nursing in the country has changed. So, if we are going to ensure that we retain students or we graduate as many as possible within our training institutions, then we need to rethink about student selection and recruitment. There are established procedures for recruitment, and I believe many of us shared. There are those who went and did an interview, there are those who went and sat an exam, but they actually had to go through a standardized procedure for admission. So the question is that procedure relevant? Does it play a role? Did it make you decide whether you wanted to take the course or not? Let me ask Kageha to share with us her experience. You're sharing with us your recruitment experience and whether it actually changed anything to do with your deciding to stay in the nursing profession.
At the university level or at basic level?
Whichever you choose. We can go on.
As I had earlier said that I did 2 interviews. One was at Mukumu that was written and orals. That one, it was very difficult. It was about those mathematics in Form 4 and stuff. So to me, it was very difficult. I didn't think that we might be selected the number, but still I got the letter, and that Masena, it was just a written. It was basically the common, the trending issues, the most emerging issues. It was really not anything to do with nursing. They just wanted to engage your level of maybe the English you can understand, and you are you have as the current and basic issues that are going on, actually knowledge about the basic issues that are going on in the country, of which it wasn't that difficult. So at that point, I just like, let me do it. Maybe everything's not as hard as I might have thought about. But during the duration of training, things were basically fine. The exams were fine. Yeah, but we joined, the capacity was 30. We finished almost the same, but 2 dropped because it was a private institution. When you get pregnant, you drop. So 2 joined us, the one that I had dropped earlier class, but we finished. But at the university, it wasn't an interview per se. It was an application. Then you be called, basing on what do you experience and the requirements they really wanted at the university. Basically, at both levels, the training, everything was fine. And it's still fine, but just the ups and downs of your way.
Thank you. So we made it easier for you to be admitted at the University of Nairobi.
For me, it wasn't that hard.
Okay.
Because I applied through someone. I applied when it was still under AMREF.
Okay.
But it took longer for us to get the admission numbers. I don't know what was the problem, but I think it was administration between the UN and AMREF. The admission numbers came much later, closer to a year or so. So getting our marks, because by that time we were using our ID numbers to write them and the admission date, but they took long. We say public universities, sometimes administration issues, they take longer.
This time you're blaming us innocently. No, it's because we are in the middle of termination of the MOU between AMREF and University of Nairobi, I think.
I understand.
That's why. But then for your master's program, when you come, you actually do both a written exam and an oral interview. So be prepared. The admissions are a bit slightly different. But thank you.
Will it be narrowed down to what I'm choosing to do at master's, or to just be general nursing?
Yes and no. Yes, because we will ask you biomedical questions, basic sciences, application questions generally, and then when you come for your orals, you ask questions depending on what you want to specialize in. Never mind, others have passed, you will make it. You've arrived up to this point, nothing is really too difficult to do. Now, thank you, and thank you for sharing your experience. The other thing we need to mention is that we need not only to think about who we are recruiting, but we need to think about retention. What do you feel could have been done to keep your colleagues who dropped out on board? Let me ask Odero. Odero, are you there? Odero can tell us. Please share with us. What do you feel could have been done to at least assist the ones who left stay in the profession or in the training?
Well, from my experience, because people dropped out not for one specific reason, but everyone had their own reasons. We had academic-related issues that pushed other classes behind.
What could have been done to those ones? For example, what do you think should have been done to help them progress without having to repeat?
Well, from my view, whatever the campus did was just right, because they were never chased out of the program, but they were allowed to go back and try again. That pushed them a year behind, but they still managed to finish at some point. I feel other ways could be invented where you're able to continue. As much as you need to go back and redo the units you failed, you should be allowed to continue, because like for the time now, you see, we will be able to finish our coursework, and it takes quite a time before we eventually graduate. So in my feeling, it would be you allow this person to continue. As they finish the current unit, they're allowed to retake the previous one, so that by the time they eventually get to graduating, they've already cleared all the pending units. I don't know if that could be a possibility, but in my view, that would encourage others, because as a student, you have for now, we have competing tasks, and of course, time is of essence.
I hear you. Thank you. After this lecture, the next lecture will be talking about administration of learning institutions.
If it could be workable, we would be allowed to retake and we continue with the other units, so that we don't really drop out of school.
That's okay. What I'm saying is, in the next lesson, we'll be talking about administration of training at medical training institutions, and we will put you in the position of the administrator, and then we will give you the challenge of telling us how would we be able to carry forward the units, it's carrying forward units in the next year, and yet be able to sustain the school economically. So remind me, I ask you that question, okay? Let's put it on hold. Let's put it on hold for now. But we do appreciate your sentiment. One of the other things which affects a student's retention is basically the question of who do we recruit? Who is more likely to succeed? The ones who have performed very well academically, are they the introverts or extroverts? Do you feel personality of individuals or the students actually determines whether they will complete the course or not? Let me hear the opinion of Rono. Yes, Rono.
In my opinion,
Go on.
I would think that. Okay, could you please reframe your question?
I asked you two questions. One,
Okay.
do you feel personality of the student affects their completion rate? The other one, do you feel the academic qualifications of the students prior to entry of the program determines the rate of completion, and if so, how? You can start with personality.
Okay. In my opinion, I would think that personality, actually, with nursing, someone has to be very disciplined. And in nursing, someone has to be very disciplined for them to achieve or be able to perform well in the academics. Now, if somebody is rude or not following instructions, somebody who is just disobedient anyway, may not be able to complete the task simply because the course itself needs discipline. And about students' performance, entry performance, those who, it really doesn't matter because we are, when we all join at a start point, we are introduced to new things. Though it may not be that new to everyone, but to most of us, it will be a new thing that is being introduced to us at the same time. So it depends. Though others have high IQ, will be grasping things so fast than the others, but their performance may not matter a lot. And again, someone who may have performed poorly at the previous level of education may have had some challenges that may have contributed to their poor results. And when they get to this level, the challenges maybe would have reduced or will not be having the same challenges and will have equal opportunities to perform the same.
Wow. Thank you. So for you, you feel it doesn't really matter. As long as you have the capability to learn, you will succeed in nursing.
Yes.
Thank you. And personality, you need to be disciplined. I appreciate your sharing. Let me ask Manoti, between introverts and extroverts, who do you think or who do you feel are more likely to succeed in nursing? Yes, tell us, who do you feel will succeed more?
Between the introverts and the extroverts.
Extroverts.
I don't think it's either is a major factor in performance in nursing. I think it all depends with the willingness and the capability of the students. But either the two, I don't think it has it's really major in performance.
Right. Thank you. Those are your thoughts. After this, I will challenge us to go online and see whether personality traits affect success in nursing profession. Okay? Then we'll see what happens next. Thank you. So in the middle of all those dynamism of recruitment and retention in nursing, we also have adult entrants. Not the ones who are upgrading, but people who just want to change their careers. And when you look at most people who change their careers from whatever they were doing to nursing, they tend to be unhappy with their current career. So they decide, let me try and move to nursing. And unfortunately, that also has a way of attracting unstable and unhappy and unsatisfied people. And so you can imagine, if you're going to attract people who are not happy in their current situation and they bring the baggage in nursing, then retention would also be a challenge. So there has been debate that we need to recruit students with highest probability of academic success. And one way of determining that is recruiting students who have previously demonstrated superior scholastic aptitude. Those with superior scholastic aptitude have a greater likelihood of academic success. The two are different. There is also the need to document the relationship between selection methods which were used and academic failure. I'll give you an example. While most KMTCs or the diploma levels admission may require a written interview and an oral interview, the university admission is different. It depends on what you scored, and it also depended on what your choices are. But more often than not, because of cutthroat competition, we end up receiving people who wanted to do different courses, and JAB, or Joint Admission Board, or KUCPP now, places them in nursing. So a lot of times during the first and the second year, we spend time trying to mentor and motivate and encourage students who are not really interested. And more, by the time they're coming to second year, we lose almost 30% of them, maybe 50 to 30%, depending on the years. And probably the university admissions board needs to rethink of who to admit to the university. That is direct entry. Upgrading students are different because the students who have worked, they have some experience, they know what they want. More often than not, if you see a student in this level who is dropping, is just because either they have been tied up with a lot of work or financial reasons, or they delayed in their research development, whichever, but it's rare because they are not interested in the profession. The good thing is, those who by the third year, you see a glow on their face, you see hope. And even those who are never interested in nursing, once they go out there, they end up loving the profession, or they venture into different things. Right now, the current PS of Energy, State Department of Energy, is called Alex Washira. He was actually my student. After those students will tell, you know what, you're here, you need to finish, you need to get this degree. I'm okay with you going to do anything else you want to do after graduation, but as far as you are a student, you need to meet the requirements, you need to do what is supposed to be done. And the fact that somebody does this degree does not mean you have to practice as a nurse. We say the best thing is it has the best base to do whatever you want to do. Either way, we need to think of optimization of selection strategies. So if you're going to do optimization of selection strategies, it means there has to be a systematic approach to selection, we need to use a range of objectives. Many of you have shared that you were never really interested in nursing, and today you're the most passionate nurses. We need to ensure whatever criteria we put in place is measurable. So we need to remove the intuitive selection of nurses and increase selection efficiency. That way, we will be probably assured of more completion rates. So, one of the other ways of retaining students is counseling and mentorship. And I've explained that within the first 2 years of our degree program, we do a lot of counseling to students. I want us to share, any of us can share an experience of how they felt the student counseling they received actually determined their trajectory of training in nursing. We'll take any volunteer.
Personally, never got.
Never got counseling?
Yes, never.
Would you have wished to get some counseling?
It's good. Counseling is healthy.
Especially in our PTS block. Was there any need of, did you ever feel the need for counseling, and did you get that counseling?
For me, I can say I wish the counseling should have actually been immediately after people have been accepted. Just people decide to do the first semester of nursing school. I think there should be a very big debriefing on what exactly nursing is in terms of a profession, not what is expected of you as a student.
Okay, thank you. I do agree with you. What else would be the component of that counseling?
Culture change.
The culture change? What culture change did you experience?
Hello, I would think of maybe it's not easy when you're starting your first rotation. You go to the ward and you find like the first thing you experience that will be shocking is seeing somebody who has passed on, and you may just end up having a negative attitude towards nursing.
Okay, thank you. So we needed to debrief, probably keep you with skills of how to handle such situations. I pray that even as we go ahead with this training, and as the nursing training advancement is the focus of many curriculum developers, will actually incorporate counseling as an essential component of nursing training. Not you being trained as a counselor, but having counselors employed to work and work with nursing students in the journey of their training. I don't know how many of you needed counseling for them to be able to identify as a student and identify with the training institution you're called to. Whoever felt like they were almost embarrassed of the institution they are. Don't tell us the institution, we don't want to put you in trouble, but just tell us whether you ever felt like you were a bit embarrassed of the institution you joined, and whether you needed counseling in the same.
I'll volunteer on that. I think I'll speak on the issue of, I won't mention the name, but there was this culture that I think is still there, that students from this school are, especially girls from this school, are easy. You're termed as easy. In terms of now relationships, you're termed as easy. Like any person who approaches you knows that as long as I approach you, I don't need anything. Just by approaching you, I know you're an easy person. All by virtue of you being a student at this school.
In that particular school.
Yes, it in as much as it may seem like something to downplay, it actually affects you, because now you have to feel like by being part of this school, every single person views and associates you as an easy person. So I feel like that is something that should have we should have been warned about, especially because with nursing, a social life is necessary, and when your social life is equally affected by you being a nursing student, I think it poses a very huge challenge in your life.
Wow, thank you for sharing. I hope that as you interact with students from the same school, you're able to tell them those things which no one told you. Attempted any? Have you?
Yes, and we're trying to change the bad perceptions that students, especially those who are younger than us, have of the nursing profession.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, and please keep it there. At times, you are the solution givers before the big institutions come up. But I can imagine stigma just associated by you being a student in a specific school is not easy. So we don't not only need to counsel people on identifying as students, but also with the organization or the institution they are training in. Counseling, I believe, fosters resilience. And resilience is the capability of adapting and readapting to change. And especially when we move from theories to clinical areas, students really need a lot of support. So we have developed a curriculum which places a lot of emphasis on placement mentors, so that when you go to the clinical area, we tell you this is your mentor, this is a person who you will work with, and hopefully that mentor can be able to work with you, and at least hope you stay to the end, and probably that will or should contribute to retention of students. I want to believe student counseling and mentorship reduces anxiety, it increases self-esteem, and improves grade overall over the period of admission. Okay, so more often than not, we do formal allocation of mentorship. That formality which you've been doing, that like you come in first year and you're told your mentor is Dr. Odero, your mentor is Dr. Mondi, your mentor is Dr. Bitok, never worked. So I'd want to hear from you, what makes students not adhere to formal allocation of mentors? Please share with me. Let me ask, there's a gentleman who told us he has a good mentor and he is mentoring. Tell us, were you officially allocated that mentor, or how did it play out? Hey, please share with us your experience.
So, on my experience, I didn't get any discrimination, because the institution I was taken in, which was Tenwek, they used to balance 8 men and 8 ladies. So that way it was more balanced. And the number was not that big, despite the institution was able to accommodate many students at that time still. Okay. But I didn't feel any discrimination as such.
Okay, so my question is, you told us you have a great mentor in that institution. You have a mentor. You shared your experience in session 1. Were you allocated that mentor officially? Did you look for the mentor?
No, I wasn't
yourself?
Allocated officially.
How did it play out?
So, out of the clinical rotations, when we got to the clinical rotations, so having worked with most of the staff, so that's how I got to pick my mentor from there. Yeah.
So it is you who approached him?
Yes, it is a her, actually. It's a she.
Oh, it's a she. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. That sounds great. Let me hear from the others. Is there any person who was allocated an official mentor, and did they visit the official mentor they were allocated?
The time, okay, actually, I had not joined the nursing school. It was back there in high school. We were allocated mentors, but some of us chose to go to another mentor simply because we see he's somebody, or he or she was somebody whom you could easily approach and tell what maybe the experience you're going through, and you would wish to be assisted. And then some mentors, okay, some were never available for you, so you would choose to go to another person who could listen to you.
Thank you for sharing. And I think you bring us to the second point, which is very important, that mentors need to be trained. Mentorship does not come automatically. And then there are people who you seem to work in rhythm with. Others may be very good mentors, but somehow your personalities do not match. And for the undergraduates, the direct entry students, we used to have an official allocation of mentees, but somehow they never turned up. And then many times you'd find the ones who you are not allocated are the ones who are coming to you. Maybe we need to find a tool which can be used to match mentees and mentors. The problem of not having an official mentor allocated is many of them do not know their faculty. It's not everybody who teaches first year. For example, I teach level 3, 4, and maybe the master student. So if you went to a first year student today, they'll tell you they don't know who I am, which is understandable. Maybe you need to find more ways of interacting with them. But the most important thing about student counseling and mentorship is the sense of belonging, not only in the clinical areas, but also in the training institution. And feeling accepted and valued as a student by the staff and faculty is very important. Counseling and mentorship also addresses organization and contextual strengths. There is always collegial relationship between academicians and clinicians, especially in the clinical field, when they have shared mentorship. So I know I could be a mentor for Jane, for example, or for Kamau in the lecture hall or in the training institution, and I know Kamau has an Onyango who is a mentor in the clinical. So you can imagine we wanted to help this student succeed. A tripartite approach would definitely give better outcomes. One of the things which you've said and which has been found is that the clinical placement experiences, especially the first clinical placement experience, is the most important factor in determining whether a student chooses to stay in nursing or leave. For that reason, we as training institutions need to make realistic work placement and involve students. It's not always possible, but we try. Then there should be adequate support and supervision for the purposes of creating competent and safe beginning, especially for students and young practitioners. When I was a first year, we used to do theory for 3 terms or 2 semesters, and then we used to have something called 4th term. And during 4th term, would be thrown to the deep end of clinical experience. Many of my colleagues were traumatized. We started as a class of 20, and out of that 20, 11 graduated. That is almost a drop off of 50%. So along the way, we changed the way we introduced students with the clinical areas. So we introduce them in second year, and they go to the wards twice, 2 days in a week. And those 2 days in a week, they are learning basic SOPs of nursing. And we ensure that those students are visited by a lecturer every time they go to the clinical areas. It has helped a bit because we had time for them to ask questions. We've also had time to enlighten the clinical support area, the practitioners, the nurse practitioner in the clinical area, that these are students who are in second year, they have not been in clinical area before, so please manage your expectations. And it has worked a bit. Maybe next time we'll share experience, we'll ask the direct entry students whether that has helped. Many times, the one-on-one relationship between the mentor and mentee, or faculty and the nurse educator in the clinical area, may not always be visible. And at times, it's not advantageous to the students. Because at times, you can have two people who are telling you different things, and you don't know which one to obey, or they give you conflicting advice. But either way, I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Thank you. Do you feel, or what do you feel would be done differently to ensure that students settle better in the clinical area? Let me invite Nanya, who has not talked to us this afternoon. Have you talked to us this afternoon? Please speak to us.
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. Wanja has? Adhiambo didn't tell us something. Who is that, please?
This is Wanja.
Yes, Wanja.
I'll say involvement of the nurses, the ward nurses, in the curriculum, in the curriculum development for the students before they come to class, before they come to the rotations.
Okay, so should they be involved in curriculum development, or should they be core trainers, core teachers?
They should be involved in the curriculum development, because I think the major issue with students not learning in ETS, from experience and from what I've seen, is that once students straight from class go to the clinical rotation, they end up being used as now the people who will, allow me to use the, in quotes, send items. They are always the people who you send around for the menial jobs.
You have free courier services. You have free courier services.
Yes, so that's, I think, the major issue with the fact that the nurses don't see the need for these students to learn. So they end up just being people who are going to be sent around. And then the students find it very traumatizing that for their first rotation, they don't get to learn anything. Instead, they get to be used by the qualified staffs to make their work easier. So it creates a very negative attitude for the students.
I perfectly understand. Does that trend change? Does it change when you become more senior students?
Yes, it does. As you progress, it does. You find there's more respect towards you as a student. You're not seen as a member of staff, but it equally has a disadvantage in that the nurses still end up misusing you, because you're qualified enough to do my job, but this is now free labor because I don't have to pay you anything for it. So even the hospital administrations also misuse students.
So they become the fill-in for staff shortage.
Yes.
That happens quite some time, but I hope that even as we progress in our training, our way of thinking will change. And because you're the people who are going to be counselors and mentors and preceptors for those students, that when they come to you, you will treat them better. Okay, I think that's what I have today, unless we have a question. Any question?
What Duke has said, whatever Joy has said, we should make the clinical instructor should be at the department to guide the students, because as Wanja said, that they are used, it's true, but when the instructors are around, they really guide them on what to do and what to do in their capacity as a student. Two, the nurses at the facilities, especially this government hospital, they are very busy even to teach those students, especially at the emergency department. You can finding time to teach them. Every day is just any time, just emergency, CPR, etc. But when the instructors are there, I see them, for example, Maseno University, they have clinical instructors who come with the students most of the days. You see, they even take part in teaching the students, which they perform even better.
Okay, thank you. The role of clinical instructors cannot be overemphasized. They are required, they are needed. We need them, even us from University of Nairobi. But more often than not, the number of staff or faculty vis-a-vis the students who require our attention at times can be overwhelming. But yes, we do need clinical instructors to follow our students and ensure they are able to meet their objectives. But at the same time, remember there are MOUs which appoint training institutions or partnering training institutions. So it is assumed that when we send you to Kenyatta, or we send you to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, or we send you to KU hospitals, those are institutions which have an understanding that students from our sister institutions come for learning, and any member of staff should be well equipped to train students. Doesn't always work, but at least. What was your experience?
Okay, my experience where I trained, the first week of vacation, okay, the nurses were so good. They showed us what to do, what they expect of us. Then after the second week, we had to learn the hard way.
Okay.
You are left alone. Maybe they supervise you from a distance. They leave you to do the task that they've assigned you. Like they were just there waiting to see what we are doing. Like if it's the vitals, if it's giving the medication, they're like, now we don't care. We showed you. Now we want you to do it. So it was like you have to do it and you have to know. We had to know.
But they had tried training you a bit.
Yeah, but the first week it was intense. They really tried to train us. So the second week is that they kind of stepped back and let us do the work.
I think those were very good trainers. I'll probably do the same. Equip you with skills and tell you now practice. Now it's return demonstration. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience.
That was, in fact, it was good. It helped us a lot.
I hope all of us get that chance, that we've trained you, we are confident in you, now do on your own. We are here watching you from afar in case of anything, but we are here knowing that we've trained you and you can perform what is expected of you. Beautiful. So thank you. I appreciate your sharing. I appreciate your participation. And for us to be able to just consolidate more of those experiences is have scientific backing. Here are some of the articles I would want you to read. Please go through them just see what is happening around the world about recruitment, mentorship, and retention, and see what are best practices, and see how we can train our students in a better environment. Until next time, I think I'll put an end to this lecture. Thank you.